Oh man, I'm so happy to have this chance to meet and speak with Ruslana Remennikova. Ruslana, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing so great. It's funny when you ask the question, how are you doing? That's becoming so obsolete nowadays. And when you said it, it took me back and I felt so refreshed in a cellular way. I felt so hydrated. So thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Of course, I'm doing really well. I've had a really good day. I'm almost finished with a book that is so powerful. It had me in tears today. It was just amazing, which I'm just grateful for having the opportunity to read a book that moves me so much. So I think that'd probably be my highlight, to be honest. Yeah.
You'll have to share
It,
what book that is. You can't
it
leave on a
of
cliffhanger.
course, right? It's called The Sun Does Shine by Ray Hinton. And I won't spoil the storyline. All I'm going to say is I think it's one of those books that everybody has to read because the main character who wrote it, goes through the most unbelievable, horrible situation and learns how to find the positive and find meaning and hope. And it's just like so powerful. So definitely, oh my gosh, you have to read it. Personally, that's how I feel. Yeah.
I'm
But well,
definitely going
all
to
right.
put it in my Amazon. Yes.
And and or maybe I can get a copy for you because I'm going to be able to meet you in person because Ruslana, you're going to be joining us here at Native Yoga Center on Monday, January 27th for the Resonance Retreat, which we're going to do a dual-led exploration of mind and sound at 7:15, and we're also going to open it up to live stream. So for those of you listening, if you'd like to tune in, there's a link in the description. You can click on that. And Ruslana, you're being kind enough to do the event donation based, which is amazing. I know you're traveling around right now because you are launching your new book, which is titled Activating Our 12 Stranded DNA: Secrets of Dodecahedral DNA for Completing Our Human Evolution. Whoa. So, where do we start? First of all, what is your book about? You wrote a book. That's incredible. Tell me what your book is about.
Thank you. So the book hits a lot of different keys. When you see the title, my biggest ask is not to be intimidated just because it has the words DNA in it. The book is written um, for everyone. It's written in a way that is meant to engage with a person's ability to love, feel emotions, remember hope. Um, the book has a number of different keys. So in my book, I talk about the future of being human, the future of how DNA can be so much more complex, which is already an inherent understanding, but what are the next possibilities of what makes up our our makeup? The other keys also, which are significant to DNA, is how sound and intention impacts our ability to heal. Not just to heal, but to consciously evolve ourselves. A huge underlying concept in this time that we live in. Water is a significant topic in my book as well. I was inspired to take the angles of a dodecahedron, which I'll talk a little bit about later, and sonify them on my harp. So I took 10 frequencies and put them on an auto harp and I played it to mute to water. And using a method that, similarly to Dr. Emoto Masaru and Beta Austin, I would play this harp music, which is infused with the dodecahedral frequencies, which is a projection of the future of human DNA. And I wanted to see what water would would respond? What kind of patterns would it reveal? What message does it have to offer? So that's all in the book. Other things in the book are how grief and trauma and how we carry this information can be an ally into how we decide to transmute and evolve and kind of move on, move up a level in the next way that in a way that we can interface with to life, interface with life in a more meaningful way. Um, Animal wisdom, angelic communication, these topics are all circled around one underlying focal point, and that's frequency. Frequency is the the ship in this book. So, I am a sound practitioner. I started my practice at a local yoga studio. Um, I know the owners, Kat and Katie, who own the Art of Us in Richmond, Virginia, which is where I'm originally, well, I live. And I did my sound practice there for almost 2 years. And one day, one of my students or class participants, I'm a student in this as well, which is why I kind of smile and laugh, but I'm a student of this constant practice. But there was a practitioner, a medical practitioner in my audience, and she says, why is this not in the hospital? Why is this not in the clinical atmosphere? And I realized that was an angel talking with me. The cosmos brought us together, and she was inviting me to come and experiment with sound healing in a medical system.
Mm.
So over a couple of months, I started to transition. It's a process of getting there, but the first thing I did was I um, participated in a nurse week where I gave sound healings just to nurses and to physicians alike. The results and the feedback, the testimonials of these practitioners, they were in shock of how much sound not only just makes them relaxed, but they're able to re-gear and reset while they're in this sterile system
Mm.
and go and help their patients with a new mood, with a happier, joyful, peaceful mood. It makes sense. It's not just about making sense. It's safer to include frequency healing into a medical system where not only patients are getting treatments, but also we care about our first responders. We care about the staff. The staff, they drive the show. So
Good
those
point.
yeah, so those nurses, they advocated for this ancient practice to appear, and I started giving sound sessions at on palliative care
Mm.
for almost 6 months now.
Nice. Very cool. Well, what is your background?
I went to, so I have a bachelor's in biology and chemistry, and then I had my master's in chemistry.
Wow.
When I graduated, I landed a job as a chemist, a bench level, entry level chemist in this contract research organization called Pharmaceutical Product Development. I spent a cumulative 10 years working for them until they merged and became Thermo Fisher Scientific. And I worked on a number of different assays, different experiments, particularly with vaccine sciences, cell-based assays, and the immunochemistry department as well. Um, so yeah, there came a point where in my awakening, which I believe is more of a listening to the calling, um, where I realized that I'm so unhappy because I'm not working in a way that's impacting the way that I want to create impact in,
Understood.
in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so at this point, you decide, I'm going to write a book. And I mean, because like when you write a book, it's a big project and it takes, I would imagine, the energy and the time to set aside to write. So did you continue to work in that field while you wrote this book? Or did you say, I cut ties, I'm out, and I'm going to devote all of my time to writing and then publish? What did that look like in relation to the timeline?
Yeah. That was in a very intriguing time. When coronavirus came into our world, I decided at the time there's sort of an epicycle to how I worked in pharma for 7 years. And then when my father passed, I started this spiritual awakening. I left pharmaceuticals to actually open my food truck, which was initially a juice truck. So I made smoothies and healthy eats for about a year until I expanded and became a coffee shop as well. So I had those businesses running for about 2.5 years, and then coronavirus happened. At the time, because of the uncertainty, I wanted to close the shops and go back to my former employer. But again, something was calling me, which I understood that that would be a temporary incubator, and I wanted to start writing. I didn't know what I was going to write about, but I trusted the intuition and I started writing 5 minutes a day. I'm embarrassed to show my initial writings. I was not a writer at all when I first began.
You,
Actually, I didn't know how to express myself in writing. Even in journaling, it felt a bit awkward to me. But I knew that I had sort of an uprising in my voice that wanted to be relayed, and I didn't understand what it was, but I trusted it. So I started writing 5 minutes a day for about 2 years, and cumulatively, um, it in my writing, I realized that I was resonating and kind of leaning into healing a lot. And the reason for that is it started with my own healing, but there's something much more expansive that wanted to be transmitted. It was something about global consciousness. It was something about how we are entering a time, sort of a projection of the future, where things are just going to go everything's going to become very new to us. And when I wrote this manuscript, at the time it was called The Evolution of Healing, I didn't realize how this embryo manuscript at the time would become something much more expansive. So 2.5 years I'm working in corporate after I after the coronavirus came along, and I decided that this manuscript, it wasn't a book at the time, it was just a collection of words, was asking me to commit. By commit, I mean take that leap. So I did. I left my corporate world, and this is the second time I did after the first one, after my father died. And I devoted myself there's a point before yeah, I fully devoted myself. I found a publisher, Inner Traditions, who believed in this vision. And for 2.5 years, um, this book came into existence. And what I mean by that, it didn't just happen overnight. This was my job. I worked on my book for 16 hours a day,
Wow.
um, fully committed to it. Um, it has its own very um, fulfilling but complex journey.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm so curious in relation to your idea of the evolution of our DNA. What theory are you postulating? Are you saying, are you thinking that there will be some sort of leap in our DNA makeup that will create a different scenario than what we see currently?
We are inherently complex, and we are not meant to be static beings. Our capabilities go beyond what was originally established. By that, I mean having two strands of DNA. That was a rudimentary step into how we can progress our understanding of our DNA in the coming future. Um, what I'm postulating is a network of ideas that legacies that we were given in history with knowledge that we have now, and kind of an intuitive direction with where things are going in our technology and our curiosity, global curiosity, and this spiritual kind of rebelliousness that this world is currently experiencing. It's all heading into the direction of the human DNA, which is the primary library that is operating this planet.
That's
DNA
fascinating.
is
Yeah.
DNA is the information center of our universe.
I hear you. I feel like I think about DNA occasionally, especially when I talk to people like you that have studied science. I would say, how many times does DNA pop up in my day to day in relation to conversation? Not very much. So I'm curious then, please tell me a little bit more about um, how and why DNA is speaking to you in relation to, well, I think that's fascinating, like what you said about the library, like this information, this code of information that is our makeup. And I understand it a little bit from the idea in relation to, and correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm way off the mark here, in terms of yoga philosophy, this idea of samskaras, or like habit patterns that are just constantly occurring over and over and over again. And potentially we could relate that to our DNA makeup. Or we can also look at it through environmental, moment by moment. You say something to me and it hurts my feelings and I have some sort of reaction, and that could create a habit pattern of emotion that, if I don't address it at that time, might build and build and build. And eventually that, I guess my own understanding is that that could come into my DNA, or my DNA could change gradually. I'm getting the feeling from you that you're saying you feel that through sound, we could speed up that healing slash DNA evolutionary process. Am I close to the right mark? Am I understanding you properly?
Yeah, I mean, it's your expression and perspective are as significant at and add on to this conversation of what is DNA. I think that is the primary question that we will be reevaluating and are. We as recent science and studies show that DNA is not a fixed molecule, and there are a number DNA human DNA exists in a number of different forms. There was an article that I was recently reading that showed that scientists are now finding that DNA has over 20 different forms. Um, and this isn't news anymore. This was actually established, I think, in 2021, but there are a number of universities that are seeing a four-stranded, healthy human DNA. Yeah,
What does that reveal?
I'm sorry.
What does that reveal?
It reveals that the information that we thought we are 72 years ago, as of this year, is much more. There's much more to the story. There's
Yeah.
much more to the story,
Is
right?
that is it 72 years ago that science discovered DNA? It's only been 72 years.
It's only been 72 years, but we're still living in this facade that many people associate. And by many people, I mean it's understandable because we've been taught and conditioned that DNA is a double helix, and it is. But what I'm trying to stir is our curiosity to continue reevaluating um, kind of the peripherals that we haven't considered about DNA. I
Mm,
believe that the 12-stranded DNA consists more of a configuration. The form is different from what we originally thought. Um, in my book, I go over the history of Plato and how he reveals and very generously gave a legacy to us 2,000 years ago of the Platonic solids. There's five Platonic solids. There's the tetrahedron, there's the octahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, and then the cube. Okay.
thank
Um,
you. This is all new info for me, so thank you so much.
yeah. And each solid symbolizes an element. Okay. I'm just going to focus more on the dodecahedron and the icosahedron. So the dodecahedron symbolizes ether, the universe, and the icosahedron symbolizes water. Okay. Well, interestingly, let's talk about the parallelism that exists norm in nature as we know it with DNA. The DNA molecule is shelled by water. A water molecule encapsulates a DNA molecule. That's profound.
That
That's
is,
profound when you start thinking about what we are currently discovering about water, water knowledge, water wisdom, um, kind of new capabilities that we never knew about water is, and how does that impact DNA? That's another question that I think will is it's essential to dive into in future research. Um, but going back to Plato's solids with the dodecahedron and the icosahedron, well, in nature, they're a dual couple, they're a dual pair. And what they're capable of doing is that they exist not only together, but they can interchangeably um, be one. so they can change forms within each other.
Interesting.
Yes, it
Ooh.
is.
Well, that
And
makes
and
my mind. Yeah, please continue.
while that might not mean while that might not have much meaning in the third dimension, I think that in the fourth dimension, where this interchangeability mechanism exists, is where we can start to imagine the DNA molecule in a different way and on a new plane in the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension, I think, will unveil um, a lot of new information about DNA.
What is your thought about the fourth dimension in relation to inevitability that we are headed into a new dimension versus how much role do humans play in the fourth dimension or the next dimension coming into our ability to observe it? Are we, is it something that if humans don't do something, it won't happen? Or is it inevitable, in your opinion, that we are headed into this territory regardless of whether we do anything or not?
Yeah, that's the golden question.
All right.
It's,
Cool.
you know,
I hear you. I know I mean, the fact that I love the idea that you're bringing up like almost this shape shifting component where these two different molecules are able to be independent and individual, but yet they can they can almost shape shift into each other and be one but not same separate. So I guess right away my mind goes down this idea of like, well, in relation to fluidity of water, and then if we are, I've always heard, I mean, again, I understand that like, oh my gosh, of course my mind starts to go, fact check. Do we have to fact check? And all these different ideas, but maybe that's part of the old third dimension. And like and then of course like I've been around a lot of the new age movement for a long time in different parts of the world and heard different ideas. And some of the ideas are like, obviously we're making some sort of evolutionary transition into this new thing. And at one point it was like it's going to happen in 2020, and then it was going to happen in a different time period and the next year, and it's like the goalpost keeps getting moved. And we're like, well, when is this thing going to happen where everything's going to be good all of a sudden? And I just say I have a lot of these questions too. So I like the fact that you are coming up with a theory and an idea. So I just want to hear more about what you think we can do and or what your vision ultimately or what you're aiming to achieve.
the fact checking is good. It's a metric, and it keeps us grounded. With the fourth dimension, that's the next step for us. A lot of us are talking about fifth dimensions. We already are in the fifth dimension. We are in the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, and on dimensions. We already exist in it because we are all interconnected. We are living in one field, universal field. This
Understood.
is this is the idea behind quantum.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying fact checking is important is because the fourth dimension is going to be palpable to the human being. This is where we need to go next to understand more about life,
Mhm.
more about ourselves, and more about science, nature, art. This is where fact checking is necessary in the fourth dimension and how we're going to be able to learn and understand more empirically, but also continue probing with the spiritual essence that's driving this whole ship.
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you, you're laying on the ground, someone is creating a sound vibration, you feel something inside of you, an emotion. It might be like a heat sensation, cool sensation, some type of sensation is happening. Uh, are you thinking that if we train the mind to uh, do something in particular during that, that would be the portal into communication in a different realm?
Yes, actually, this is wonderful. This so sound frequency, um, that modality that is becoming, well, it's always existed, but it's becoming more pronounced in our society with sound healing and with um, kind of the new medical approaches that we're making, and it's awesome. We're continuing this the new we're redefining what frequency even means. But let's just slow down for a bit
Mhm.
and focus on what you said.
All right.
That frequency that is manipulated, you're creating that frequency because we know that Earth already has its own frequency, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you slow down and you create a sound that isn't necessarily just a frequency, but it creates harmony. It balances the body, the mind, the vibration of your cells, your DNA. It's an environmental stimulus, right? We already know epigenetics contributes to uh, the quality of our genes trajectory. We know this already. But on a psychic level, I believe the psychic plane and the ethereal plane are should be the first thing that we consider in this equation because we are DNA is constantly being informed. That is how we're able to manifest. It's how we're able to experience life and any kinds of information. When we harmonize, we achieve meta. We become, we're rooted with the ground, but we're also connecting with a higher plane, a higher dimension. That's what I mean by meta, like the clouds. We can understand. We things become more clear to us. We can start to uh, hear and listen in sounds that are not exactly even around us. We can start to pick up information. This is the next part of being human.
I
It
agree.
it's being in tune and flowing with frequency. One thing I wanted to mention about the fourth dimension before we move on, um, light. Light is a significant way to measure in the fourth dimension as well. We know we talk about sound and light um, as being complementary, and they are, but in the fourth dimension, light is going to be instrumental in how we are able to fact verify future scientific experiments with frequency. It's, I think this is very important. Even if it doesn't make any sense right now, that's fine. But let it be spoken that light and sound in the fourth dimension are going to be the dual pair that helps us understand more about DNA.
Mm. How would you slash do you implement light into your sound journeys, experiences with people? Have you had a chance to bring that into the equation, or have you focused solely on sound up to this point?
That's a wonderful question. Well, I'm going to take this. analogy about the moon and the sun, and how the moon is a reflection of the sun's rays that illuminates the darkness for us all in the nighttime, right? Well, in a similar way, I believe that sound um, is sort of like the moon. And what we are being awakened by, that light, is actually within our DNA. It's the memories that are unfolding and that we're interfacing with.
Mm,
Even if it feels emotional, because when people experience frequency, it is a physiological experience. This is known. There are many white papers and academic papers that prove this. Sound and frequency emit and invoke a physiological response. That's why music is so powerful and accepted in the science world. But in a similar way, if we consider frequency in the sound healing, we do understand when it penetrates our cells, it also penetrates water and interacts with our DNA in a way that when we have this transformative, profound sound experience and we get into a deep rest, sometimes, people are sleeping, but they wake up feeling like they have been on a journey, even with the Z's and the snores, they have come back from a very powerful experience. And there is release, there's a detox that happens. There's joy, there's peace, even if it's uncomfortable, which also happens in sound healing. Um, it's still a detox cycle because that emotion that is so deep, deeply situated in our fascia and in our DNA and in our complex system, it wants to emerge.
mm.
And when it emerges, there's also release in that as well. Um,
I,
so to answer your question, full circle, I think that when we have harmony, um, we are more, we have a higher possibility to experience more understanding of the world and ourselves.
I agree. Absolutely. You're right, Rusana. I, first of all, I love the analogy of the moon reflecting sunlight and bringing light to the night. And then the idea of sound and then our water molecules having a similar type of reflective quality. And I definitely agree that there feels to me like there's such an incredible momentum right now, like just in the world. Like there's just so much interesting energy going on in relation to whether it's communication or information or so I'm a huge fan of this idea that we are going to evolve into something really great. We already are in a great place, but it's going to even get better. Um, and then I'll be very honest, I have my skeptical mind that is always just there. And I try to like let that go as much as possible. And I'm working on that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your clarity in the ideas that you're expressing. And I think I love the idea that you said about going into, say, like a medical facility or a place where people are attempting to heal. Like that's what a hospital is, in essence, or any type of facility where we're going to because we're sick. It makes perfect sense. I'm curious, do you feel that there is more value to the sound that comes from the resonance of like a crystal bowl versus a collective group getting together and chanting, do you feel that is one more effective or productive than another, or is it all kind of simmer down into sound in general, and whether it's chanted or sung with the vocal cords, or because obviously we have like electric music, and then in the music world, I understand that there's this idea that it's funny because I like all music. Like I like really light music, I like really heavy music, and I like joyful music, and I like really dark music, and I kind of like it all. And I know somebody was like, look, but you're a yogi. I thought you'd just be listening to like new age music all the time. And I'm like, no, actually, I like punk rock music a lot. And so I'm curious to what is your feeling on like the quality of the sound? And is there something that you're striving toward in that field?
Absolutely. I believe that the fundamentals of the universe in frequency terms operates through resonance. Resonance is a structure, meaning that if you take a kid on a swing and you want to get the child to be, uh, getting to a certain level, you got to push the swing a little higher, right? That's one way of looking at resonance. Another one is you have two different tuning forks, and one tuning fork has a higher pitch than the other one that's lower. And then the idea behind resonance in this example is when you play the higher pitch, it brings the frequency of the lower pitch a little bit, it kind of mediates it towards the higher pitch, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's where the specificity is in this kind of healing, is we're not necessarily looking for what specific, well, it depends on the context, but what specific instrument or, frequency will achieve this physiological response. I side with leaning more towards resonance and how the resonance is achieving a universal harmony in that structure. So for instance, when I go and I play crystal bowls in the hospital because I can't lug all of my instruments at once there. Um, what I find is it's important for me to slowly edge into um, the process. I'm not going to start playing high-pitched music or a specific frequency. I'm going to start with the root chakra, go to sacral, go to solar plexus, and go slowly. The next one is the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And then I go all the way back down. So I start with a kind of a calibration system. And then based off of the person's condition, for example, if the person is feeling or is recovering from chemo, from gastric cancer, stomach cancer, then maybe I will concentrate more on the solar plexus and kind of leave it more towards the lower frequencies, ground, sacral, solar. I have found some very extraordinary experiences where the patient is actually able to identify the exact uh, frequency that I'm using by the bowl. They will just say, "What's that one?" Right?
Yeah.
After the session, and they would say, that particular one I felt really drawn to. It helped me with my
Mhm.
pain. It went away. It's amazing what sound will do. Sound will relieve chronic pain. Sound will bring deep relaxation to people who are experiencing some very complex conditions and bring solace to families that are grieving um, spending time with their loved ones in their last hours. It's such a beautiful ceremonial and effective modality. Um, Now, interestingly, 432, I won't go into all of this. That's a long discussion.
Did you say 432?
432 hertz.
Ah,
Yeah, the 440 versus 432 ongoing
there's a
argument.
debate here. Fill me in on, well, you just said you didn't want to go down that debate, but what is the debate? Like which one is the most effective frequency?
Yes, so there is a ageless debate over 440 hertz versus 432 hertz. And again, I'm simply coming from what sound is producing harmony. And if you take the concept of binaural beats and you listen to 440 hertz in your left ear and you listen to 432 hertz in your right ear, well, you have 8 hertz as that binaural beat difference. Well, 8 hertz is Schumann's resonance. 8 hertz is the the frequency that Earth is vibrating on. 8 hertz is the frequency that we're able to get into theta brain waves and go into the most transformative experiences, psychedelic experiences in our dream state. So I won't go into the whole why this one's better than the other. I'm simply coming from what is producing harmony. That's what we want.
Yeah. Yes. That makes sense.
But oh, so that's why I mentioned it. 432. There are a number of companies now that are researching the effectiveness of frequency as it's presented in sound healing to hospitals now. Actually, this is becoming a thing, and there's more technology research around this where people are product engineers are starting to understand that frequency actually works in relieving stress and really in creating more ambient environments, and hospitals can benefit them, and their customers and their audience are for clinical systems.
Gosh, that's so cool to think about that I would be at the hospital and they would have even music piped in, these sound frequency healing kind of sounds coming through versus like I just had where our yoga studio is, the plaza has speakers all around, and this morning they switched the music to a country channel and they turned it up. So I came in really bright and early this morning at 5:30, and I hear this like really loud country music, and I'm like, what the heck? What's going on all of a sudden? Now, if they put like 432 and everybody walking around the plaza was hearing this like really peaceful sort of ambient sound, what an incredible experiment to just see. Like, what if we did put more of these ambient sounds in our environment? What kind of effect would that even have on like people wanting to fight each other and people wanting to argue and people getting really upset about it? So that's so cool and interesting to think about. And then I guess I was thinking when you said that, like, are there places that you can go where there's like sound chambers that you go in and just get immersed? But then I thought, well, that's kind of what you're doing when you're doing a sound bowl experience in a studio or a room or hospital or wherever you're creating a sound chamber. What is your thoughts on a human playing a bowl versus listening to a pre-recorded re a recorded sound journey?
Yeah. That's also a debated question. I think that there is a lot of benefit to listening to it in real time, just so that the body gets to actually experience the wave. Um, when you play a gong, for instance, you can feel the wave of the gong go through your entire body. You can feel it connect with your heart. It's a different kind of experience than listening
Definitely.
to it
Oh, it's
virtually.
amazing. You're right. It's absolutely amazing. On that note, Ruslana, you created a recording that's coming out, yes, called you have a new
Yeah,
sound album coming out, I think.
yes. So, in chapter 17 of my book, I identified 10 specific dodecahedral frequencies, which I explain in the book how I arrived to this realization of these frequencies, and I decided to create music with them. So they are not the solfeggio frequencies, but now they're sort of an innovative category of their own called the new sound frequencies, as a sort of a child of this book.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And that comes out when?
It'll be out in March. I haven't picked a date yet, but March will be I'll be back from the journey and it'll be a good time in early spring.
Very cool. And you're touring right now to multiple locations where for your book release where you'll do like a book tour. And that's why I'm so excited. You're going to be here in Florida and we're going to have the chance to meet you in person. On our date is Monday, January 27th at 7:15. And we're going to have the link. So if people want to join in, you and I already conversed a little bit about the reality of that people that'll be joining in live stream. We can't guarantee the sound
It's
quality
going
is
to
going
be
to be,
beautiful.
it's going to
It's
be
for
amazing.
community.
It'll be-
Yes.
yeah. And
We would
people
love
can,
for you to join.
that
Yes.
would be incredible. And again, you're being extremely generous by just creating it donation based. So anybody can come. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible. I really appreciate, Ruslana, all of the energy that you are putting into it. And I feel like my own personal offerings of sound healing is only going to improve by learning from you and being around you because you're taking it to a level of exploration and appreciation that I'm still really learning about. And just I feel like this is so fascinating to me. And I've just been kind of jumping in and like playing sound bowls, going, I like these, but I haven't really thought about my DNA while I'm doing it. I haven't really thought
Yes.
about the
It's
potential for change that could occur just with something I say simple, maybe it's not super simple. Maybe it's really amazing and complicated but it seems so simple. So I'm excited and I really appreciate this opportunity. Is there anything, Ruslana? I know I want to stay right on track in time with you because I know you have a busy schedule. Is there anything that you'd like to conclude with to close our podcast conversation today?
Thank you, Todd, for the opportunity to connect with you and your audience. Thank you all. We would love for you to join us in a virtual sound bath if you can. It'll be live, so there will be a bath in person, but if you can do virtual, great, because we are all connected through this quantum field that we live in, inevitably and miraculously. Um, Yes, this is donation based. I'm just really excited to be at one as a community. So, thank you so much, Todd. That was it. That's all that I wanted to say is thank you
All
and
right.
to encourage people to join, even if it's just to close your eyes and believe, believe in yourself and believe in the great direction that we're all going into.
I agree. Amazing, Ruslana. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.